Hello again, folks. Today, in the third part of the Gamergate series, I would like to talk about the consequences of the failures of Gamergate. What happened? Why? So, because Gamergate misunderstood the fact that we live in a completely female-dominated world, and the female is clearly the future, right? Because they missed that, because they didn't realize the government was going to use force to oppress people who disagreed with them politically, what were the consequences of that? What happened? So, as a result, the things Gamergate was trying to prevent did occur. So, gaming journalism turned into complete nepotism, complete, white knighthery, complete symmetry, completely garbage, unrealistic, Marxist as all heck. Completely done. Mainstream video game titles, of course, now joined the social justice warriors in their anti-white male rhetoric. They now make video games specifically against white men in the West for the most part. Any AAA publisher virtually has an agenda that's either strictly grooming children to try and get, white children to mutilate themselves and remove themselves from the gene pool, basically, to white men's own spaces being ostracized, being politicized, being invaded by these hordes of women and other races meant to, completely destroy anything we might enjoy as white people. That's the reality of the situation. That's what's happened to video games now. Video games are no longer made by white men for white men, but by women and minorities for literally no one, because women and minorities don't even play video games, really. And the video game industry, while it's more financially successful than ever because of hyperinflation and God knows what else, and because of indie development, mainstream publishers are failing, and they're failing left and right. They're on the brink of bankruptcy. They're having to resort to notorious, basically money laundering tactics. Like, so many studios would have gone over if it wasn't for PPE loans brought on by the cough. The great coffining prolonged the life of a lot of these corporations, but give it a decade and we're going to see what happens. But I imagine the outlook is not looking good for video games. So because of the failures of the gate of games, because, of the mistaken protest, because now anyone who criticizes anything about a woman or a video game is usually labeled some kind of terrorist, and people are already getting prepared to call the police on them to try and peacefully shoot them in the back of the head. Which, let's be clear here, this anti-gamer rhetoric is basically genocidal and intentionally so. The entire thing is meant to try and kill white people, basically, specifically white men. So, again. But at the same time, it's so funny. The system also needs you, needs your labor. I need you to hold it up because you're the only one that's positive on the tax burden. Once modern monetary theory goes, or MMT, out the window. That's it for a lot of these places, a lot of these corporations, and a lot of these countries, the United States included. So, in modern monetary theory, the reserve currency basically doesn't have to care about debt because it can always print more of its own money, right? But with BRICS, with all these other options coming up, with the first trade of oil ever for the yuan, well, I shouldn't say that. Well, the first major international trade of yuan for petrol, might bring an end to the petrodollar. At what point are we no longer the reserve currency? At what point is all of this dead and the balance books now suddenly going to have to matter? And in reality, that's when white men strike again. But we aren't at that point. We're just waiting. All warfare in this day and age, because of the supremacy of the states, monopoly on violence, has to be economic, has to be fifth generational, has to be politically based. So you can't compete with these people on a term of violence, and that's another failure of Gamergate, because violence is just not going to work. McCarthyism just isn't going to work. Right-wing cancel culture just doesn't work. I don't care about Bud Light being some minor success, it's not going to work long term, and it's not going to work for the end of things. Like, Anheuser-Busch's failures, more so, and not relying on a government to deliver violence to the protesters is why it's working. The second they, capitulate and beg a government to do something about it is the moment that protest ends. And it's the moment they start putting bullets in the back of people's heads. You will buy the Bud Light, It's only a matter of time before things like that actually happen, so mark my words, I'm calling it. Not exactly being shot or by the Bud Light, but you get the picture, right? It's symbolism. I can't really say what form it would take, but once Bud Light appeals to the governments to try and solve the issue, consider the issue solved and the boycott over. They have that option available to them. They just haven't taken it because it's rather depressing too, right? It's an admission, and they don't want to make that admission. They will if they need to, though. Rest assured. Today I'm going to have Golden Pavilion? Yeah. Kinkaku. Let's have this incense for this right here. I love incense, by the way. I have a billion different types. But yeah. So, the reality is all of the people that Gamergate persecuted have an easy life grifting for all eternity. The people that were proponents of Gamergate are social pariahs, who are going to have to grift to exist. People, no justice would ever be had because women are above consequences. Let's be clear here. In modern day America, women are so far above consequences they can do anything, and nothing will ever touch them. They're the untouchables in society. Be it divorce court, be it anything else, you're never going to see a woman actually have to suffer for any decisions that she's made. And Gamergate just reinforces that. It's another consequence of Gamergate. What are the consequences of it? For internet culture, now you have a generation of men that are so jaded, so bigoted, so unruly that they're basically useless for global homos plans. So that's a positive. That's the one solace you can really take out of all of this, is that it took the mask off. Gamergate took the mask off the beast. We see it for what it is now. We see the anti-white agenda for what it is. We see, the anti-Semitic left wing for what it is, the people that want, the people who cried on the floor of the House like Ocasio-Cortez when the Iron Dome was funded. We see all of this, and at the end of the day, we know exactly what it is. Now, it revealed it to us. A lot of blood, sweat, and tears had to go into revealing it to us, but, the only protest that's going to work is one that takes on Gandhi, which is a peaceful protest, which is letting things collapse around you, and that could take a while. We have to lose the reserve currency. We have to fall apart as a society completely. All of America has to turn into Detroit. And then, if we feel like it, we can pick up the pieces, which I'm not entirely sure I feel like even doing that once everything breaks and is gone. I want to see the system fall because I want to see what's next. If what's coming next is not something I'm not in favor of, let the third world America take hold. Let the West fall to the East, and let the East come forward as the people rightfully reigning over the planet. Because frankly, I'm not interested in the United States being the world police anymore either. Just like how I'm not interested in, trying to actively protest against all of these things. It's pointless. I'll point out wokery and, the social justice bullshit when I see it. I'll point out things that you shouldn't play, but I'm not going to actively ever resist anything or try, Because frankly, it's just going to end up with you getting shot and killed. And even, just sitting here talking about it may end up with, that outcome. I might be labeled a social dissident and pulled out behind a barn somewhere at some point. Entirely possible, if the left wing, for instance, takes over the country and is complete in their Marxist revolution. Certainly I could be one of the ones sent to the Gulag. I can write my own Gulag archipelago then. It'd be great. Or they'll probably just kill me, which is more realistic. In this day and age, we've evolved from, letting political dissidents speak. we've learned to just execute them, lock them up in a cell for 6 months and then throw away the key like they did with the January 6 people, or just shoot them right then and there. That's the reality of the world that we live in. And that's the reality of a post-Gamergate world. Gamergate was the final point in which America could have been saved. It ended at around the 2020 election. Maybe another 4 years of Trump could have prolonged the amount of time we had, but now there is no saving anything. There is no reason to try anymore after the stolen 2020 election. There is no point to try and grift off it and go forwards now in this system anymore. We're in the year almost 2024, and we're literally seeing people lock up, active political candidates on, fake RICO charges for organizing an election challenge. I wonder when they're going to, arrest Gore, for instance, or when are they going to arrest Stacey Abrams? Oh, right, they have a D in front of their names. My bad. Absolutely ridiculous. This legal standard will only impact one way, and it's only going to impact the elites hating the white men. And, so you just have to accept that as your new reality. It sucks. That's a post-Gamergate world. You have to accept video games are not going to be something you enjoy, and they're not made for you to enjoy them. Not made for anyone to enjoy them. They're made to rub it in your face that you're not supposed to enjoy them. It's, the left wing and women basically rubbing the fact that they can destroy your hobbies, destroy your communities in your face. And I'm still waiting for, a place to make good communities. I do have a Discord. Join it in the bottom if you enjoyed this series. We chat, we say naughty things, but I'm looking for a place where I can have, a Discord but with end-to-end encryption. Revolt says it's coming out with E2E. If that does, I'm probably going to swap over to Revolt just as a full-time platform for my itty-bitty community of gamer boys, and hopefully that can be the future that we could take on. We'll see if they actually deliver on that, but if that's true, that's a place where the feds can't get to us, where, you can set up a computer properly, core booted i3, no IME or anything like that, and have your, cake and eat it too. And, the world's going to get dark, and the consequences of Gamergate and the horrible things that arose because of the failures of Gamergate have smashed just Western gaming. You see it everywhere now, where they make allusions to how toxic white men are, or, they make allusions to pedophiles like John Money, that gender is just a social construct, or, all of these horrible things. I've already gone into John Money before. You can look it up if you want. There's a bunch of videos by me about him and gender ideology and how fake it is. But at the end of the day, we have to accept that video games have died, and that going forward we need a new type of media in indie development. We either need the next type of media where all the tech geeks can go organize before the mainstream can understand it and get there. That might be AI, some version of it, or it might be something else. But that's it. We either need the next best thing, which is in a post-gaming world, which is probably going to be AI, or we need to develop small indie communities. I'm voting on the indie communities, hopefully potentially evolving into FOSS communities, but we'll see. But for me, I see the solution to the failures of Gamergate now as organizing into small, indie development-focused gamers, enjoying our little communities, enjoying, escaping from the woke shenanigans, and just ignoring society as a whole. Because society, from the moment you're born as a white man, says that you're nothing, they hate you, they'll use violence against you, they'll rip, your kids from your arm, and they'll take your money from you and give it to your former wife. They'll rob, just even working, they're going to rob your tax dollars from you. They're going to take it out of your paycheck before you even have a chance and give it to Shaniqua for her little brats, give it to, some woman to feed her little brats. Or, let's be clear here, for her to buy shoes. That's the reality of what most of it's going towards. You're paying for Shaniqua's shoe fund. Her designer handbags, her nippy nappies, her threads or whatever. And they're going to take from you, and they're going to rob you, and there's not really anything you can do about it. You're expected to be the tax cow that everyone else steals from. And frankly, I'm not interested in that, and I hope you aren't either. And so in the final video on the Gamergate series, unless you guys want more or want me to discuss something else about it, I'll talk about, the solution after everything hits the fan, and, what you can do personally if you believe at least that you deserve a society with ethics in it. You deserve a society where people are held accountable for their actions. If you want a society like that, if you want to rebuild something in the future that hopefully, elevates people based on their merit, not based on the color of their skin, elevates people based on their intellect, makes a world where monogamy is promoted, not something that's evil, breaks apart this tribalistic matriarchy, and hopefully rebuilds civilization as it should. Well, watch the next episode, and then we'll see from there. But I'll explain my ideas on how to do that and how they relate to Gamergate in the finale coming up, either tomorrow if you're watching this as it comes out, or in episode 4. You have a great day.